Network, which was founded by the need to connect Black professionals and students from all over the world for role model visibility, career opportunities, business support, and ultimately to solve our own problems. Our vision is to change the Black narrative, and our mission is to advance the careers of millions of Black professionals enabled by Javelin, which is our career advancement platform. Now, how does Javelin work? If you are a Black professional and you sign on onto Javelin, it helps to connect you to career job opportunities that fit with your CV. So when you put in your CV, Javelin helps you to connect to remote job opportunities, hybrid or on-site job opportunities as well. I'm sure a link will be in the comment section where you can have access to Javelin later. Or you can visit javelin.byp.network. All right, so this is our founder. Her name is Kike Oniwide Agoro. Kike Oniwide is the founder and CEO of BYP Network, which is a multi-million-pound company advancing the careers of Black professionals. She has a huge success and varieties of accolades that are attached to her name. She does have a huge array of networking, and also thanks to her, we have a platform like this to help advance the careers of Black professionals globally. My name is Okere Lomo, and I'm the chapter lead for BYP Network Lagos. I'm passionate about African history and the Black community. And we have our speaker, Yanmo Adetula. She's a career expert, speaker, and author. She's the author of the book, Be the CEO of Your Career. If I'm correct, Yanmo?
Yeah, you're spot on. Well done.
Yeah, and Yanmo is a Forbes Coaches Council member. She's a career expert, like I said earlier, and an author and a dynamic speaker. She's dedicated to empowering colleagues like us in the workplace to unlock their leadership potential and excel in their careers. And with as we go on in the discussion, you get to know her better. So our theme is emotional intelligence, once again, in leadership. And emotional intelligence can be a key success in your life, especially in your career. So I'll stop sharing now so that we can get into full discussion from here. Once again, thank you so much, Yanmo, for coming on today to speak to us and share your experiences and knowledge on emotional intelligence and how it can help our leadership career, especially as Black professionals.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me. Can you all hear me very well? Can you all hear me very well? Yeah, okay, excellent.
Hello, I can hear you. Oh, awesome.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Right, I'm just going to share my slides, so just bear with me 1 second. And thank you so much, Ake, for that fantastic introduction. I'm like, who's she talking about? Me? I don't think so. So thank you. Thank you so much for that. So just bear with me while I share my screen and my sound. Just bear with me. Okay, can you all see my screen? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Okay, just bear 1 second. Let's do that again. Just bear with me. Okay, that should be okay now. Perfect. Perfect. Right, excellent. That's come up. I'm just going to reduce this so I don't see anybody's face when I'm speaking. Okay. Hi, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on emotional intelligence in leadership. And thank you so much, okay, for putting this together and just doing an amazing job on behalf of BYP. So I hope everyone is okay. I'm going to ensure that I make it as simple as possible. And I'm going to assume that by the end of this 40-45 minutes, you would have tangible takeaways and know exactly what you need to do in order to either increase your emotional intelligence or to start developing your emotional intelligence within your leadership skills. Okay, so let's get started. Right, so the content for today is literally, I'm going to talk about me, but I'm going to really skip that because Oke has done an amazing job of doing that already. I'm going to talk to you about what emotional intelligence is, because we've heard the word or the phrase so many times, but oftentimes we don't really know what it means. We just use them in our everyday work life. I'm also going to speak to you about understanding the components of emotional intelligence, the techniques on how to enhance your emotional intelligence, and the impact of emotional intelligence on leadership. Now, some of you may not be leaders at the moment, but I will encourage you to start thinking about yourself as a leader. Even if you're not working in a leadership role, start to think about yourself as a leader. And everything I'm going to be teaching you today regarding emotional intelligence, you're not only going to use it in your workplace, in your corporate world, in your career, you're also going to use it in your everyday life. I can assure you, emotional intelligence has helped me succeed tremendously in my career. Okay, and then we'll have summaries and key takeaways, and of course, questions and answers at the end. Okay, so about me, like I said, Oke has already done an amazing job. But what I will say to you is that I came to the United Kingdom when I was 17, having lost my mom to breast cancer. I didn't have any mentors. I didn't have any coaches. I didn't have anyone, but with a clear vision and shared doggedness and learning, for example, emotional intelligence, I was able to excel in my career, earning six figures and getting to the top of my career game. So I think I know a thing or two about it. And I have been very, very fortunate to work with some of the world's best organizations, HSBC, Barclays Bank, British Airways, Marks and Spencer, you name it. So all of that experience and expertise, I am going to condense into this next few moments. So that's what I have done. I'm also married and I have two sons. So yeah, that's a little bit about me that is away from the career space. Okay, so let's start. What is emotional intelligence? Very, very simply, emotional intelligence is the ability or your ability to manage your emotions and then to manage the emotions of other people. And you're going to think, well, what does that even mean? If you're not able to manage your emotions, if you're always breaking down at the slightest thing, you're crying, you're getting angry, whatever the case may be, that means that your emotional intelligence or EQ is very, very low, right? And one of the things I want to do at the end of this is to increase your emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence is the ability to manage your own emotions and understand the emotions of other people. You're not able to understand the emotions of other people if you're not able to manage your own emotions, right? So another word for emotional intelligence is EQ. So when you know what emotional intelligence is, right, then you can start to apply it and understand what components you need regarding emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is something that has been around for many, many years, but like life, we tend to give a title to a particular thing. So I don't know if all of you are in careers at the moment, you're working, you're transitioning. If you cast just your mind back, or even where you are at the moment, does your boss actually, would you say that they have a high level of emotional intelligence or not? If you're able to answer that question, it means you're already at that foundational stage of understanding what emotional intelligence is. Even at work, when you think about when you get angry with your team members, or when your boss tells you to do something and you get angry, do you know why you're getting angry? And do you know why you're reacting the way you're reacting? That is all called emotional intelligence. But the bottom line here is that you have to have the ability to manage it, because we're all human beings, right? We get angry, we get happy, we get sad, we get disappointed. We have all this plethora of emotions that go through us, especially in the workplace. Sometimes you get to work thinking this is going to be a fantastic day, and a colleague just says something to you, and poof, your whole day is just, it just goes out the window. But ultimately, if you can understand the concept of emotional intelligence, which is the ability to manage first your own emotions and then understand the emotions of other people, I can almost guarantee you're setting yourself for success. You can have and know all the technical skills, but the higher you go in your career, it's not the technical skills that you need, it is emotional intelligence. It's the soft skills, the skills that are not easily quantifiable. For example, emotional intelligence. I remember saying to Oke that this is one of my favorite topics and subjects to actually teach about. So I can teach about emotional intelligence until the cows come home. So that simply is the definition of emotional intelligence. How the ability for you to manage your own emotions and understand the emotions of other people. I hope that makes sense. Let me see your hands if that is making sense to you. Just show of hands. Let me see if that's making sense to you. You can give me a thumbs up if that's making sense to you. Is that making sense? I can see it. Okay, fantastic. Excellent. Thank you. Right? So that's what emotional intelligence is. It's not quantum physics. It's not that difficult, really. It's not quantum physics. It's very, very simple. But I needed you to really grasp and understand the definition of emotional intelligence. Okay? Now, let's go on to the next slide and we'll start to see what really is emotional intelligence all about. If my cursor will work, there we go. Right, so there are 4 competencies to emotional intelligence, right? And it's very, very easy. Even if you don't have them now, it's very, very easy. But there are 4 competencies to emotional intelligence, and I'm going to break them down to you. And this is really the meat of my conversation, right? This is where we're going to get into it somewhat, right? The first competence is called self-aware. Remember that the definition of emotional intelligence is the ability to manage your own emotions, right? And understand the emotions of other people. If you don't understand the emotions of other people, you definitely cannot help them. You cannot manage them. And remember, we're speaking about this in the context of leadership. So the very first competence that you need is self-awareness, which is understanding your own personal EQ, your own personal emotional intelligence. How are you managing your mindset and how are you finding your flow? So let me break that down for you, right? Self-awareness is at the very core, it's the foundation really of emotional intelligence. And some would describe it as understanding your strengths and your weaknesses, but I will go one step further and I will say it's actually understanding what your core values are. And the reason I say that is because you may be very, very good at a particular competence, but it doesn't mean that somebody else that isn't good at it is going to irritate you. However, for your core values, if somebody is not aligned to your core values or you're not aligned to that person's core values, then you're going to start seeing a high level of irritation. For example, if you are a very organized person and you have a boss that comes to you at the last minute to get you to change a slide, change a deck, change a report, right? You see what I'm saying? It's going to irritate you. So it's not your ability to put the slides together. That's a strength. That's a competence. That's great. But your core values are being organized and being on time. So for example, Oke knows that on Saturday the 24th at 2 p.m., we're going to have this webinar. What has she done? She's put a timeline together. She knows when she's going to contact the speaker. She knows when she's going to speak, send all the information. And then at the very last minute, her boss comes to her to say, no, we're changing it from emotional intelligence and leadership to how to learn plumbing, for example, right? Now, if Oke is a very organized person, I can almost guarantee you with 100% certainty that will really irritate her. Does that make some sense? Now, but because she's not aware of her core values, she's only aware of her strengths, yeah, she's not able to understand what her own personal emotional intelligence is. She's not able to start managing it. So because she now understands what personal and emotional intelligence is, she would say, okay, I work with a boss that last minute will come up and tell me to change every single thing. How do I manage that? That's the very first thing. That is why it's called self-awareness, because you cannot change what you don't know, right? So every single time that happens, if Oke is not aware of that, she'll be getting irritated. She would go home, she'll tell her mom, her dad, her relative that this boss again. But the truth is that she can really manage it if she is aware of her core values. Am I making some sense? So the very first thing is self-awareness. Remember, we're speaking about emotional intelligence, and we're speaking about the 4 competencies of emotional intelligence in leadership. But you cannot lead people if you don't even know who you are, right? You cannot help other people if you don't know who you are. So once you understand what your core values are, then you start to understand what your own emotional intelligence is, right? And then you start to manage your mindset. So like I've just given the example, without a shadow of a doubt. In fact, let me tell you a story. I worked for a guy at one of the biggest retailers here in the UK. And he was a fantastic, lovely person. But guess what? His time management skills were terrible. We would have a meeting, 5 minutes to the meeting, the deck is sent out, everything is sent out. He will come and he will say to me, can we just include this? And it really used to irritate me. Honestly, okay, smiling, I can see you smiling. It really used to irritate me. But you see, I very quickly understood why it irritated me. Why? I do not like last minute things. I like to be very organized, especially in the workplace. Do you see what I'm saying? So I had to have a conversation with him. But he didn't know that it irritated me. But the bottom line is you have to be very aware of yourself. Then you're able to find your flow. Okay, then you're able to find your flow. So self-awareness when it comes to emotional intelligence is very, very important. And some of the ways you would know is you would ask yourself, what makes you happy? What makes you angry? Sometimes you may have work colleagues that they just lie, and you don't like lying, and you know they are lying. It makes you angry. And I'm calling out the little things because then if you do not know about the little things, you will not be able to stack them up for the bigger things, right? So what makes you angry? What makes you happy? What motivates you? These are some of the things that you need to answer for yourself because we're all very, very different. We don't, five fingers are not the same. We're all very, very different. So when you're able to understand your own self, you become self-aware. There's a heightened level of self-awareness. You're able to say, I'm not doing this with you, not today. So you don't get angry, you know how to put your emotions in check, you're understanding what your mindset is saying to you, and you're understanding your flow, okay? The next thing is self-regulation. So now that you're aware that your boss will always come to you at the 99th hour, right? How do you regulate all of that? Right? So you have to now think about disrupting your thoughts. So instead of saying, this silly boss of mine that is coming again, no, you need to flip it. Because if you say something negative, yeah, the energy that you release will also be negative. And remember that we are speaking about emotional intelligence when it comes to leading other people. So if you are not able to self-regulate your thoughts, right, and start learning how to deal with stressful situations, and might I say, what I may consider a stressful situation may not necessarily be what Olamide will consider a stressful situation. Why? Because we're all very, very different, right? But when you know what yourself, when you become self-aware, you know that these are the things that are stressing me out. These are the things that don't motivate me. These are the things that get me angry. Then you're able to deal with those situations much better, and then you can shift your perspective so that you have a different behavioral outcome. Right? So when it comes to self-awareness and self-regulation, these are the things that you have to be aware of. And you will see that the top two, self-awareness and self-regulation, are about you. Right? You cannot lead other people if you have not done work on yourself. So in order for you to bring out the best in other people, you need to understand, you have to be self-aware, and you also have to understand your self-regulation. And it means just self-management. How are you managing yourself? So sometimes in my own career and in my own experience, when people have irritated me at work, what I would do is I would just literally go outside for 5 minutes, and just get some fresh air. What am I doing? I'm regulating myself. Doesn't mean the situation has changed. No, it just means I'm regulating myself. And I don't know if you've ever been in a work environment where people start to insult themselves, and they're calling themselves names. That's because first of all, they don't have self-awareness. And second of all, they don't have self-regulation, which is self-management. That's the truth. The ability to rise above a situation is so key, so that you are not reacting, but you're responding. So if you have to take yourself out of that situation, do just that. But find what works for you. So like I say, I'll go out for about 5-10 minutes before I come back, and I'll say, excuse me, I need to leave, and I will go, and then I'll come back, and then we can have the conversation, or we can postpone the conversation, whatever the case may be, because you do not want to be reactive. You want to respond in a way that is reasoned and a way that will show that you are very professional. Remember, you're going to be leaders if you're not already in a leading position. right? Now, the next one is social awareness. Now, this is when we're talking about other people. So remember that the definition for emotional intelligence is the ability to manage your own emotions and to understand the emotions of others. If you can't understand the emotions of others, you definitely cannot lead them. You cannot help them. So social awareness just means developing social skills. I will say this because I'm assuming we're all people of color, Black people on the call. The thing with social awareness is we feel that we're friendly people. We feel that, oh, well, I'm jovial, I'm lovely, and all of that. But you have to learn to develop your social skills. Social skills is as simple as even being able to strike up a conversation. Many people don't know how to do that. It's a social skill. And it's a social skill that in a social environment, and I'm going to explain what I mean by social environment, in a party environment is very easy. But in the work environment is not as easy. Why? You have not developed your social skills to that level. So this is why sometimes people find it very difficult to go for networking events, because I always hear them say, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. But you do know what to say, because if I put the same you in a party situation, the floodgates will open, right? So it means that you have to develop your social skills. And this is why emotional intelligence is such a beautiful skill to learn, because you can develop it. It can be developed if you just take the time. And every single day, regardless of where you are in your career journey, just be intentional about it. So even if you have a colleague that you don't normally speak with, when you get to work on Monday, or I don't know if it's bank holiday public holiday in Nigeria, but here it's public holiday. But the next time you get to the office, just say, oh, hi, okay, how are you doing? How was your weekend? Okay, will look at you and think, I have worked with you for the last 5 years and you've never ever said that to me. Okay, would not realize that you are now being intentional about developing your competencies for emotional intelligence, right? So it just is something as simple as that. Because if you cannot ask your colleague how they are, when you start leading a group of people and a team of people, how are you going to ask how they are? Right? So that's a simple example of developing your social skills. And then, of course, using empathy and connecting with other people's perspectives. I often hear this with a lot of my coaches, and even when I do training in organizations, I hear that, oh, it's my perspective, it's the way I think about it. Your perspective may be great, but it is one perspective. And if you're going to be very social aware, you need to be able to put yourself in other people's perspective. Yes, you may be the leader, and ultimately what you say will go. But if you neglect them or ignore them, then what you're saying is that you're not an inclusive leader. Right? And we live in an age and a dispensation where inclusivity is the game. But you need emotional intelligence and social awareness to be able to connect through empathy. And empathy is just putting your own ego to one side and saying, what are you going through? And just listening to them, right? Which actually leads to the next one, listening to improve social awareness. Now, as a woman, many of us can talk. Sometimes we say, oh, I don't know how to talk. That's not true. We can talk. However, I'm assuming we have gentlemen on the line as well. One of the things we're listening is that we feel we listen, but many of us don't listen. So when you're speaking to somebody, and if you think back, even maybe today or maybe yesterday when you had conversations with people, when you're speaking to somebody, 9 out of 10 times you don't actually let them complete their sentence. You interrupt. That is because you do not have really good listening skills. And this is particularly important in the workplace, especially when people come to you to report a situation to you. You need to be able to listen. And don't listen to hear them, listen to understand what they're saying. Because there's so many things that are said in the silence of it. But this is why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. But many of us, and then we don't listen, right? So social aware is developing your social skills. And let me just say, social skills, one of the main components of social skills is communication. And communications, there are 2 elements to it. There is verbal communication, which is me talking and you talking back to me. And there is non-verbal, which is my ability to listen to you and my body language, right? And I will share a story with you. When I worked for Whitbread, I would sit down and I would observe people while doing my work, but I would observe people, and people started to call me people watcher. But the ability to watch people, right, made me realize that I was increasing my social skills. I knew what was happening without them actually telling me what was happening. It's a skill set you should develop. Don't always be the one speaking, right? So listening is not speaking. Listening is you zip your mouth, you open your ears, and you're aware of what's going on. And in fact, using your eyes to listen is also a really good thing. So you see what's happening in your peripheral vision and you can understand better. And then the last one is managing relationships. Now, if you are not a nice person because you haven't developed self-awareness for yourself, you haven't regulated yourself in terms of managing who you are, you haven't built up your social skills, the thing is that you're not going to authentically be able to adapt. There will be conflict management. You will not be able to resolve things. And we do not like conflict, right? As human beings, we don't like conflict. We don't even like conflict in the office. So when there's a problem, we tend to either walk away from it or not know how to deal with it. When you have a high level of emotional intelligence or you're building your emotional intelligence, I can assure you, conflict management will be so easy because you're not judging them. Right? You're listening from a different perspective, but you're listening because you're also understanding their emotions, right? And then you're able to communicate your intent and impact. Any leader that doesn't have an impact on the people that they're leading is not a leader. Any leader that doesn't have an impact on the people that they're leading is not a leader. I've already mentioned communication, but many of us don't know how to communicate. So when you look at the tenets or the competencies of emotional intelligence, I want you to think to yourself, what can I do to ensure that I am building my emotional intelligence? Am I making some sense? Show me let me see your hands if I'm making some sense. I think there's a hand emoji now on Zoom, right? I can't see any hands emoji. Am I making sense? Right, fantastic. Thank you so much. Excellent. Okay, so let's move on very quickly. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's move on very, very quickly. So now that you now know the 4 competencies of emotional intelligence, which is self-awareness, self-regulation, social awareness, as well as managing relationships, how do you start enhancing this thing? What do you even now need to do? So Yanmo, you've told me the definition, you've told me what the competencies are. Okay, great. But what do you need to do? Well, I'll tell you what you need to do. The very first thing you need to do is you need to get a book and you need to get a pen. I know we live in a digital age where everybody uses a tablet, a phone, that's great. But you need to journal. Right? You need to start recording and reflecting as often as you can. If you can't do it daily, as often as you can, right? Start with baby steps, as often as you can, how your emotions were for that day. How did it influence your decision making? How did it influence your interactions? Because remember, you cannot change what you don't know. Unknown continues to remain unknown. Okay, so but the very first way you're going to learn to do this is by journaling, meaning that you're going to ask yourself, right, okay, irritated me today. Why did I feel the irritation? What did she really say? What triggered me? What was the environment? And this is an exercise that every single person should do because it will enhance your emotional intelligence state, right? And then find out what was positive about it, what was negative about it, right? Remember that you are the one in charge of your life. And I always say you have to be the CEO of your career, meaning there are things that you need to be willing to do to get to the next level and the next level and the next level. And then the next thing you need to do is you need to undergo a 360-degree feedback. What does a 360-degree feedback look like? It means asking everybody you work with because you don't know you to the extent that other people can also see you. Or I'll say it another way, you don't see you to the extent that other people see you. So for example, I always use, okay, maybe I should use somebody else, Ernestina. So let me use somebody else, Ernestina. So Ernestina may feel, oh, I'm very conscientious, right? And in your head, you believe you're conscientious. You've told yourself you're conscientious or you're very diligent. But by the time you ask your colleague that what do they think about you, you find out that conscientious and diligence doesn't even come into the equation. or by the time you ask your boss, or you ask your friends, all of that doesn't even come into the situation. Now, this is what 360 degrees feedback looks like, because then you're able to look at it holistically and say, what do I need to work on? Right now, and then you compare the results, and like I say, it will show you what those blind spots are and where your leadership gaps are. Right. The next thing, and I've said this before, is you have to practice active listening. And I don't know about you, but I have friends that before I even finish, I'm like, can you let me finish, please? Right? And they don't even know that they do it. But as many times as I say to them, can you let me finish? Can you let me? I call it, can you let me land this plane? They're like, oh yes, oh let me land. Exactly. And by the time they interrupt, the thing is that they haven't actually understood what you're saying, because oftentimes when they say something, you say, well, that's not what I was even saying or what I wanted to say, right? So practice active listening. Practice active listening. If somebody tells you, let me finish, it means that you are not an active listener. Let the person land their plane. Let them bring the car to a halt and then speak. But we feel that, oh, we have something to say, we have something to say. Listen, you may have something to say, but in the context of leadership, you need to learn how to make other people land the plane. Let them make their point. Even if you know what they're trying to say, even if you know what they intend to say, let them land their plane. Okay? And then pay attention to your emotions. Let me just say something under practicing active listening, right? When you're listening to somebody, focus on them, especially in the workplace. Don't be looking at your phone or your laptop, or just focus on them. Make eye contact as much as possible, right? And don't judge them. Use your body language. Don't. If I sit like this, so my arms are crossed, I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but my arms are crossed. If you're talking to me and I sit with my arms crossed, my body language is telling you that I really do not want to have this conversation with you. So if I'm a leader and you come to me with a situation, with a problem, with an issue, and I come and my arms are crossed, if you are an emotionally intelligent person, you would know that that's not the right time to speak to me. Okay, so you also, as the leader, make sure that your body language is inviting. Don't cross your arms, don't cross your, just make sure that you are present and avoid interrupting. I've said this several times, and I know I talk about this a lot because I have a lot of people that do it to me, and I can assure you it's extremely irritating. So please don't do it to other people as well. And the last thing I will say on practicing active listening is, if you don't understand what is being said, ask the question. If you don't understand what is being said, ask a question. Can you explain that further? What did you mean by this? Okay, because when you just feel that you understand it, sometimes we come from a judging point of view. And remember that if you're going to excel in your career, leadership has to be a component of you excelling in career. So this is really important. The other thing is pay attention to your emotions. I've said this before. So what are the things that trigger you? If you don't know the things that trigger you, then it's not likely you can solve it. Right? If you don't know the things that trigger you, it's not likely you can solve it. And if you get angry, and anger is a strong emotion, right? If you get angry about a particular thing, you really need to sit down and ask yourself, why am I getting angry about this? It could be something even in your own personal life that you haven't dealt with, but it's being projected on somebody else that has nothing to do with that, right? But if you do not get to the root of the issue, then you're always going to get angry when a similar situation occurs or arises. And that's not what we want, right? And the last thing is, you need to get training. So you need to come to webinars like this. When BYP puts on webinars, you need to listen to conferences about emotional intelligence, but not just emotional intelligence, just really leadership, right? And what leadership is about and how to excel in your career. Okay, now I'm going to go on to the impact of leadership, of emotional intelligence in leadership. I've said it before and I'm going to mention it again, right? Even if you get to a leadership position, if you lack emotional intelligence, you will not be a good leader. You will not be a leader that your team members will want to work with and work for. Okay, you will not be a team member that you will not be a leader that your team members want to work with and work for. So they may be there because you're paying them a good salary or an income, but they don't really connect with you, and that's not what you want. We already spend close to 8 to 10 hours on our careers every single day. So if you're going to be a good leader, then you want to be that kind of leader that you have a team of people and they are connecting with you because you're a good person. But being good means that you have a level of emotional intelligence and you're showing that. So what are the impacts of emotional intelligence? One is going to enhance your decision making, because the more emotional intelligent you are, the more you're going to know who's in your team that is not pulling their weight, not because the deliverable says that, but because they're just lazy, right? You're going to be able to hire slowly and fire faster. You're just going to be able to make the kind of decisions that will help your organization and also help you increase productivity and increase the bottom line. It will improve your communication skills. I listen to people often and I think to myself, how did you get to this position? When you lack emotional intelligence, your communication skills are low. But when you improve your emotional intelligence, your communication skills are improved. And like I said earlier on, communication is not just talking, or speaking. Emotional communication is two ways, verbal and non-verbal. And non-verbal, in my opinion, is actually the greater of the communication skills, because you're able to learn so much by listening. You're able to learn so much by understanding people's body language and you projecting your own body language as well, right? And then it will also give you better team cohesion. I've already said people do not want to work with terrible bosses. Who's had a terrible boss before? Don't worry, we will not say who's had a terrible boss before. I've had several terrible bosses before, honestly. Yeah, exactly. Right? Exactly. But the thing is that terrible bosses, even though they are human beings, right? They're just, you don't want to go to work. You don't want to be in their presence. See, I had a terrible boss once. I used to sit next to him. Do you know what I did? One day, I go into the office because I used to get into the office really early. I'm an early bird. I go into the office, yeah, I packed all my things and I went to the other side of the office by the window. I'm being honest with you. Do you know why? Because I just didn't want to be in his energy space. I didn't want any of that. Right? I didn't want any of that. And he came to me and said, oh, he wants me to move back. I said, I'm not moving back. I'm okay where I am. Right? So, and that's only because he was not a good person like that in terms of leading. Right? So when you have a high level of emotional intelligence, I'm telling you, you would know really good leaders, and it would also encourage you to become a really good person, a really good leader, so that even in 2 years' time, in 3 years' time, in 5 years' time, wherever you find yourself in your career journey, you would just be a good person. You would be able to say, there's something up with these people, even if they're not in your team. Right? So it brings together better team cohesion, right? And the other thing is you become so effective at conflict resolution. Like I said before, many people don't like to have difficult conversations. And unfortunately, if you're going to be a leader, you need to be able to have difficult conversations. You really need to be able to have that. And being emotionally intelligent, or having a high level of emotional intelligence, will help you to do this. You're able to constructively speak to people. You understand their emotions, you understand their perspectives, and even when two members of your team are disagreeing, you're able to listen to both sides. You're able to acknowledge their feelings, and then you facilitate a resolution that satisfies both parties. It's fantastic. And then the last thing is better resilience and stress management. So remember I said that if you are not aware of yourself, you go to work, spend 10 hours, depending on how much your commute time is, but give or take 10 hours, an hour to commute to work, 8 hours on the job, an hour to commute back, right? And you're just getting stressed and stressed and stressed and stressed and stressed. You know what's going to happen to you? Your health is going to suffer. Your relationships will suffer. Your finances may even start to suffer, right? So, but when you become emotionally intelligent, you have greater resilience, you can bounce back, you know what to do differently because you're managing yourself, you're regulating yourself, and you don't allow those stressful situations get to you. You can manage them properly. And that's what it is. Because if you don't manage your stress levels properly, nobody else is going to manage them for you. And I'm going to come to our summary and then I will conclude. So to conclude, or to summarize, emotional intelligence, or EQ, is the ability to manage your emotions and understand the emotions of other people. EQ can be developed and improved upon, right? EQ, in my opinion, is the single best predictor of performance, leadership, and personal excellence. And there are 4 competencies to EQ, like we have said, right? So I'm happy for you to take pictures of the slide. If you want me to send the deck to, okay, I'm happy to do that. And the key takeaway in all of this is this: do unto others as you expect others to do unto you. Meaning, if you don't want people to be rude to you, don't be rude to others, right? If you want to have a good leader, be the kind of leader that you would also want to have, right? So it just simply means be kind. I really want you to think about it and just be kind. Emotional intelligence is hinged on this premise: do unto others as you expect others to do unto you. Okay, so that's me done. If you have any questions, let me know. Okay, over to you.
Wow, this has been a power-packed session. I believe everyone will agree with me that it has been a masterclass, really. I've learned a lot of reflection as you were teaching or as you're sharing your knowledge with us. So as though I was reflecting, and it has been an empowering session, so insightful. Please, if you have questions, you can ask your mom. Because I have a question. Probably I should go ahead. So I wanted to ask that as we grow in our careers, does our emotional intelligence also grows naturally, or we need to also improve on it as our career progresses?
Okay, that's a great question. Okay, thank you. So as you grow in your career, your emotional intelligence doesn't automatically grow. Like I said, you have to be intentional about it, right? So you have to become better at communicating. You have to become better at understanding your core values and your strengths and managing yourself, because you find yourself in different places. So you, for example, you may think that, okay, I'm in an organization now where everything is fine, my boss is great, my colleagues are great, so no one is really stressing, you're having a great time. So you're not intentional about your emotional intelligence. You live in 6 months time and you have the boss from hell. What are you going to do? So you have to be very intentional. Exactly. So you have to be very intentional about it, right? And what I will say to you is the best way to be intentional about it is to deploy it every single day. Right? Deploy it every single day. It doesn't have to be something big. I gave the example of assuming you're one of those people that will come into the office and not say hello to anybody. The next time you're in the office, say hello to people. Do you see what I mean? So deploy it every single day. But start with finding out what areas, what gaps you have, and then start deploying on those gaps first of all. But no, you have to continue to work on them. I continue to work on my own emotional intelligence, and I am amazed what I keep finding out. So I hope that helps.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Okay.
If you have a question, please kindly ask now.
Is Yusuf's hand up?
Does that mean that, can you still hear me, everyone?
Yeah, we can
So
hear
no
you.
one has a question for Yoma. That means that
I have a question.
Yusuf's hand is up.
Oh, awesome.
Go on.
My question is, how do you deal with a difficult boss that does not know how to manage his own emotional intelligence and also not very acceptable to feedback?
Okay, so it's one of two things. You're not there to manage your boss. You're there to manage yourself and do the job, right? So everything I have been saying today is about you and self-awareness. You can't manage your boss in terms of if he doesn't want to change. You can give him the feedback. If he doesn't want to take it, that's fine. But what I always say is if it's causing you a level of stress that you're not willing to live with anymore, then it's time for you to either change department or go find another job. He's just one human being. I hope that helps. Yeah? Okay. I see Yusuf's hand is up, so I don't know if Yusuf has a question.
Yes, good afternoon. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the the masterclass. It was really interesting. So, to my question, I would want to ask, um, what do you do to a situation where the person who is your boss or your leader is a personal person, more like your parent, your father, or your aunt, who seems to think that they understand everything happening to you, and then you are trying to explain, but they are not listening. So how do you treat such situations? Because it extends beyond the workplace and even at home. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. So that's a really good question. So what I will say is this, yeah. Ask yourself what you're communicating to them. Does it make sense to you? Half the time we would say yes, but it may not make sense to them, right? If the answer is it makes sense to you and it makes sense to them, and they still are refusing to understand it, then maybe you need to just stop explaining it to them. And unfortunately, we cannot choose our family members, right? They come, it's part of the package. So perhaps you just need to find a different way of communicating it. So maybe writing a letter to them. And that's what I have found. Remember, there are different ways of communicating. We just feel that communicating is I need to talk to you, I need to talk to you, I need to talk to you. So perhaps find a different mode or a different avenue of communicating what you need to say. And if they are still unaccepting of it, then I would actually just say, let it be, because unless it's affecting you so much that it's affecting your health, it's giving you stress and all of that, but nobody knows everything 100%. Your hand is still up, Yusuf. Go on.
Yes, thank you. Now, I want to ask one more question. Some people in this part of the world talk about being quiet. Like as you grow, you go more quiet. Like as you grow older, you become quieter. With when it comes to challenges and problems, is that really a solution to some of the problems that we face?
No.
Like, okay, when
So
somebody comes with a challenge, okay.
yeah. So it's not about going quieter, it's about not speaking to the right people. So oftentimes I hear that we go quiet, but we go quiet because the people that we're speaking to are either not hearing us, not understanding us, or they're not changing. So you don't go quiet, because if you go quiet, you're going to implode. It's like a volcano, right? Have you seen pictures of a volcano exploding? But in this situation, you will implode. So it's not about going quiet, it's about finding the right avenue to actually express what you need to express, or finding the right avenue to express it to a different group or category of people. I know that in Africa, they say, oh, as you get older, it's not about being quiet, it's about using wisdom. So this is what I'm saying about, finding a different way of explaining it. And if it's something that is causing you a lot of stress and it bothers you a lot, then you cannot keep quiet about it, because you keeping quiet means that at some point you're going to start harboring resentment and bitterness and all of that. And that's just not healthy for you at all. So I hope that helps, Yusuf. Any other questions?
Thank you so much, Yanmo. It has been a great session. I'm sure that we're all filled to the brim, and by the time we get to our office spaces, whatever professional level that we had, this has really helped us. And this is a recorded version, so it's going to be on YouTube for other people to learn and also get fed with this beautiful and remarkable masterclass that we have been through today. Thank you so much. You can follow Yanmo Adetula on LinkedIn and Instagram. I'm sure that someone is going to drop that now in the comment section. Thank you so much, Yanmo. It has been a great session. And also, you can get the book, Be the CEO of Your Career. That is Yanmo's book. You can also get that on Amazon, I'm sure. Am I sure? Yes, I am. Right, Yanmo?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, it's on Amazon.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you all for joining today. And you can also reach out to us at lagos@bypnetwork.com. The link will also be in the comment section as well, if you want to reach out to us or you want to collaborate with us as well. So yeah, it has been a great session today. Thank you everyone for joining once again. And
thank you so much.
Next time.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Yanmo. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.
Bye.